Imagine what life would be like in a world where doing bad pays more than being good. The story unfolds with a man named Yang Chen, who is working in a company where his boss has just refused to pay him. When he complains, his boss claims ignorance and insists on not paying him, giving him the option of quitting if he can't take it anymore. Without wasting much time, Yang quits his job. While packing up his things, his colleagues try to convince him to stay, but he ignores them. They further mention his girlfriend's sick dad, since they would need the pay to treat him, but their attempt to make him stay proved futile. While leaving the office, his girlfriend sends him a message, breaking up with him. While this shocks him, he remains strong and decides to start a car-hailing business. For his first passenger, he goes to pick up a woman who demands that he waits 20 minutes for her to get ready. On seeing this, he gets angry and cancels her order. When this happens, the woman immediately leaves him a bad review. This bad review immediately bursts a very charming woman, who informs him about a bad review reward system. This system would grant him a reward for every bad review he gets. However, to activate it, he has to kiss the woman, and he definitely wasted no time in sealing the deal, largely because of her beautiful lips. After this, he gets rewarded with a 28% stake at the All-Island Hotel. So he has to go there to pick up some official papers. Coincidentally, he gets an order to pick someone who also happens to be heading to the hotel, and he happily accepts. When he picks his new passenger up, she seems to be very rude. To get back at her for this, he starts to drive as fast as he can, causing her to be scared on their way. And while she is still scared, he demands that she calls him daddy, and she doesn't hesitate to do so. Shortly after, they arrive at the All-Island Hotel. Angrily, the lady decides to give him a bad review for his actions. This, however, doesn't bother him due to the bad review reward he will be getting for this. When the girl drops the review, he immediately gets rewarded with ownership of the Xinglong finance building. This happens to be the same building he was working at. Seeing this, he is excited and sees this as an opportunity to have his revenge on his ex-boss, the bastard, like he actually is. Just then, Yang proceeds into the building to get the equity agreement for the hotel shares. Seeing him walk in, the lady assumes that he is following her and starts to complain. He, however, ignores her and goes to meet the receptionist, who hands him the equity agreement he has come to get. Before leaving, Yang decides to have a drink. There, he realizes that the lady had come on a blind date to meet Zhang Long, the son of a rich trust fund mogul who wants to invest in the All-Island Hotel. While the two exchange greetings, a pot-belly old baldy walks in with two really hot girls. One of them happens to be Yang's ex-girlfriend Zhu Feifei. The other girl with the baldy named Chen Xin walks up to Yang and accuses him of stalking his ex-girlfriend and not wanting to let her go. When the baldy sees this, he wants to act manly and demands to know what is going on. Seeing his act this way, Yang bluntly introduces himself as Feifei's ex-boyfriend. When the old man asks Feifei if this is true, she begins to act all innocent and claims that she had broken up with him, but he refused to let her go, even tracking her to this hotel. Hearing this, the old man immediately demands that the waitress calls the manager of the hotel, which he was to call him. Feifei begs Yang to leave peacefully or risk being humiliated. I would like to see the look on their faces when they realize how much power he now holds in this hotel. On the other hand, the lady from before, Jai, informs Long about how Yang had treated her while she rode in his taxi. Hearing this, Long walks up to him to confront him. He demands that Yang call Jai in on if he would throw him out of the hotel. Hearing this, Yang seeks to know who Long's father is, and when he hears this, he smirks in confidence. At that moment, the hotel manager arrives, and the old man and Long waste no time in making their complaints. Hearing them, he demands to know who the cause of this problem is, and they both point at Yang. When he sees Yang, he immediately recognizes him as the second largest shareholder in the hotel and orders security to throw old man and Long out of the hotel. The two are shocked to hear this, and when they get informed about who Yang actually is, everyone, including the two girls, leave their mouths open in surprise. Meanwhile, Feifei, who at this point has proven to be a gold digger, opts to beg Yang for forgiveness, but her friend steps in to take her place. Seeing them act this way, Yang orders Manager Chan to take them all out. Now it's just Zhang Long and Jia Yu left, and Manager Chan tries to explain who Long is, but Yang is uninterested. Instead, he demands that Long be thrown out along with the others. While this date, Jai is left behind. In order to teach him a lesson for his arrogance, he asks Jade to join him and give him a chance to apologize for his actions earlier. After a brief moment of deliberation, she decides to stay with Yang and leaves Long to be thrown out by security. Seeing this, Long gets very angry. He reminds Jade that she was the reason he had the argument with Yang in the first place, but she claims that he only did it for himself. Angrily, he threatens to hit her if she sits with him, and Yang goes in to offer her a seat, promising to harm Long the Fly if he ever tries to hit her. Just as he said, Long charges at her, ready to hit her. However, he is stopped by Yang, who grabs his hand. Then, security grabs him and throws him out of the hotel. After that, Yang and JD go ahead with their date. They both introduce themselves and JD claims she had only come on the blind date to be able to get a rich man who would assure her stay in the city. Hearing this, Yang believes she is better than Fei because she is honest. Furthermore, she informs him about the previous date she had where her date tried to kiss her. Hearing this, Yang expectedly doesn't see this as an issue. He believes that it all depends on the atmosphere and feelings. While JD continues to doubt that anyone would let a man kiss them on the first date, Yang proves his point by walking up to her and leaving behind a kiss that she clearly enjoys. After that, he leaves her to enjoy her meal and intentionally reveals his room number for her to meet up with him. Although he doesn't state this plainly, Jay spends her time thinking about the kiss and how he has just indirectly invited her to his room by telling her his room number. Meanwhile, in his room, Yang just had his bath and he hears a knock on the door. On getting there, he sees Jade, who immediately grabs him and kisses him. So much for not kissing on the first date. The two end up having a good time and they sure enjoyed themselves. The next day, Yang wakes up to find that Jay had left. However, he is shocked to see a stain on the bed, which clearly meant that this was her first time. To show just how much she enjoyed herself, she leaves him with a note and some money, and Yang clearly finds this to be interesting. Later that day, he heads to Xing Long Finance Building to lay claim to the building. On getting there, he introduces himself to the manager, who immediately recognizes him and goes to bring him some official documents. When he hands Yang the documents, he seems pleased. Then, he asks about the occupants of the building, which happens to be his old boss's company. At that moment, Manager Chan informs him that their rent will be due next month. Due to this, he asks that they go and talk to them about this, which Yang gladly accepts. Just as they arrive at the door of the company, Manager Chan receives a call and asks Yang to handle this alone while he picks it up since it is urgent. When Yang walks into the company, his old colleagues assume he is back to work, but he clearly states that he is back to collect the money he is owed. Hearing this, his boss feigns ignorance and still refuses to pay him. Instead, he tries to convince Yang to come back to the company, promising to pay him a large sum if he seals another deal, but Yang declines. Then Yang reveals his phone, which he had used to record all his boss has said. Seeing this, the boss orders that the door be closed and threatens Yang to hand him the record before being let go. Even after hearing this, Yang insists on handing the recording to the police. However, one of his staff named Li Yuan steps up, offering to beat Yang up and destroy the evidence. In that moment, Manager Chan walks in. He introduces Yang as the new owner of the building, leaving everyone shocked to their bones. Li Yuan still doesn't believe this and walks up to Manager Chan to verify, but he gets angry, insisting that Yang is the new boss. Then Yang reveals that he was owed money by his old boss, who clearly has refused to pay him against the guidelines of the company. On hearing this, Manager Chan reminds him of the triple payment penalty for cases like this. When his boss offers to pay him triple the amount he owed, in exchange for the recording, Yang insists on taking just what he is owed. After that, he turns around to leave, letting Manager Chan handle the situation. However, his boss stops him, refusing to let him go away with the phone. This time, he promises to lay any of his staff who is able to snatch the phone away from Yang, double of their current salary. None of them believed him, and all remained at their stations. Then, Manager Chan wastes no time in calling security to come to the floor. Shortly after, security arrives. When Yang's old boss sees them, he is dumbfounded. Just then, Yang asks that the workers take their time to lay their complaints and claim what they can with their boss before he settles an account with him. Without wasting much time, they all start to talk about how he owed them salaries and made them work overtime. With all these complaints against him, Yang's old boss would now be out of work. Due to this, Yang informs his old colleagues that he would now be opening his own agency and asks if they would like to work for him. They are all excited at this and happily accept. However, while he accepts everyone's offer to work for him, he declines that of Li Yuan, who happens to be the loyal dog of his wicked ex-boss. After that, he gives all of them some time for a vacation, promising to inform them when the company starts. With his revenge done, Yang decides to get back to his car-hailing job. On getting into his car, he receives a notification about a new passenger, who turns out to be his college friend, Wang Lixin. When she gets into the car, she immediately recognizes Yang. She introduces him to her boyfriend as someone who was very good at school and pretty popular amongst the girls. She had asked him out at the time, but he turned her down, and this still hurt her. When she hears that Yang has broken up with his girlfriend, which he happened to be dating at the time, she is pleased. She insults him for what she thinks is his current situation as a cab driver and makes fun of him. Also, her boyfriend offers to give Yang a job in the company he works for. However, this job would require Yang to serve tea and clean up. Offended by this, Yang insists that he doesn't need a job. Meanwhile, Lixin asks that he turn on the AC, but he insists that she asks nicely. Hearing this, her boyfriend gets angry and threatens to hit him, but Lixin stops him. Still angered by this, he demands that Yang stop the car, so they fight it out. However, when Yang sees that they have come down from the car, he drives off, leaving them stranded in the middle of a bridge. This causes Lixin's boyfriend to leave him a bad review. Unknown to them, this review gets him rewarded with 2 million in cash. On the other hand, Lixin and her boyfriend come up with a plan to get back at Yang. They invite him to a party, claiming that they want to apologize to him. Seeing this text from Lixin, Yang doesn't think much about it. Instead, he is concerned about the new order he has just got. However, it starts to rain, and when he meets up with her, she insists that he carries her to the car since she doesn't want to stain her shoes. He finds this to be a weird request and declines immediately. To be nice, he offers her an umbrella, and she thinks that he is dumb for declining a chance to carry her. However, he ends up escorting her to the car. When they get in, she makes another stupid demand, asking him to drive the car up the stairs to her house since she doesn't want to stain her shoes. She clearly is stupid. However, Yang declines her request, and she angrily threatens to leave him a bad review if he doesn't do as she has asked. Due to this, Yang asks her to come down from the car, but she refuses to do this. Since she wants to stay, he comes down, informing her that he would be going to get a late-night snack. Seeing how serious he is, she comes down, and is about to file a complaint against him when he drives off, leaving her behind. On his way, he discovers that he is out of tea. Coincidentally, his next reward for the bad review left by the weird woman is a very expensive tea, one which is more expensive than gold and very rare. Hearing how expensive this tea is, Yang immediately stops and checks his trunk for the tea. While trying out the tea, Yang gets notified about another bad review. While he wonders who he got this review from, he is informed that he has been rewarded with a villa house worth 500 million. Pleased with this reward, he gets into his car, ready to drive off when an unknown lady comes in. While he wonders who she is, she offers to give him good money if he drives off. However, he informs her that he is not a taxi, but a car-hailing system, and she would have to order him on the platform. Shortly after, a man comes banging on Yang's door, demanding that he opens up. He claims that he is the girl's boyfriend, but she bluntly denies, claiming that she had only gone on a blind date with him. However, the man named Zhang Hengji reveals that the girl, Wang Canny's father, owed his family a huge amount of money, and her father had used her to pay off the debt. Hearing this, Yang suggests that she call the police if she is in trouble, demanding that she comes down from his car. However, she begs him to help her. While this is going on, Hengji continues to bang on the door, demanding that Canny come down and join him to the hotel he has booked for them. Just then, he offers to share her with Yang if he opens the door and drives them to a hidden area where they can take turns with the girl. Hearing this, Yang gets offended, and he starts the car, ready to drive off. Seeing this, Hengji introduces himself as the son of the Yoa group, threatening to find and kill Yang if he drives off, but Yang ignores him and drives off with the girl. This gets Hengji very angry. On their way, Yang doesn't seem interested in what is going on. He offers to drop Canny off after a while. However, Hengji catches up with them and tries to block them with his car, but he ends up crashing his car. Seeing this, Canny finds it funny and laughs loudly. Due to how intense this issue has become, Yang demands that Canny get out of his car, but she promises to give him a good time rather than settle for Hengji. This pisses him off, since he has absolutely no interest in her. He insists that she gets out of the car, and she does, although she is angry that he declined her offer. Meanwhile, Yang heads to his newly acquired villa house, where he is handed the contract and keys to the house. After that, he gets a call from the secretary of All Island Hotel, inviting him for a meeting. On getting to the company, he meets the chairman of All Island Group and Zhang Long's father, who has now come to seek an explanation on why he cannot invest in the All Island Hotel. Yang tells him what happened and demands that his son, Long, apologize to him. However, Long's father doesn't see the need to do this since his son was only standing up for his date. Hearing this, Yang insists that he will not let them invest in the hotel. Then he leaves the meeting to attend to some things. After he leaves, Zhang expresses his dissatisfaction with how he has just been treated. However, the chairman of the hotel tries to calm him down and urges him to talk to his son to apologize to Yang. After leaving the meeting, Yang heads to the parking lot and is confronted by Hengji and his friends, who have followed him to take revenge on him. At first, he assumes they want to fight him, but Hengji assures him that this isn't the case for now. Instead, they have come to smash his car, just as he had made him smash his earlier on during the chase. The trio starts smashing Yang's car repeatedly, and he records the whole thing. However, Hengji isn't bothered about this, since he assumes that Yang would be unable to do anything to him. Shortly after, Long arrives with Canny, and Hengji boast about smashing Yang's car, all insulting Canny for settling for a taxi driver. Meanwhile, Long had come to apologize to him, because his father had instructed him to do so. After accepting his apology, Yang asks Long about how rich his family is, and he claims they have over $1 billion. Hearing this, he suggests a deal, asking Long to lend Chani the money she needs to pay Henji, and in exchange, he would let them invest in the hotel. Hearing this, Long is surprised that he isn't lending Chani the money himself, seeing that he has a 28% stake in the hotel, which is worth over $3 billion. However, Yang finds his way out of further questions and Long agrees to lend Chani the money. On hearing this, Chani gets excited and she jumps on Yang's body, thanking him. On the other hand, when Henji finds out about Yang's stake in the hotel, he assumes that Yang is the son of a very rich family, and he immediately apologizes for his actions. Yang, however, ignores him. Shortly after, the police arrive. Apparently, Chani had called them earlier. When they arrive, Henji tries to play the victim, but the police suggest that he settles this with Yang. He, however, chose to run his mouth and Yang ends up insisting that the case be taken to court instead of settling privately. No matter how much Henji offered, Yang declined, and the police had no choice but to take him away. Later that day, Henji's father arrived at the police station and tried to do the same thing his son had tried by offering Yang a large sum of money to settle privately. However, Yang insists on taking the case to court. He ends up signing a legal document, ready to battle it out legally, and ignoring Henji's father, who had now clearly been ignored. After that, Yang heads to the real estate office to get the keys to his new house, and on his way home, he considers getting a new car as soon as possible in order to continue his car hailing service. On his way, he gets a new notification about a new bad review. This time, he gets rewarded with a new luxurious car. On getting this, he decides to head home and rest for the day. While relaxing outside his villa, Yang's new neighbor, Miss Su Yinong, asks her maid about the information she had demanded from them about Yang. However, she is informed that Yang is just an ordinary man with no trace of being rich. This makes her come to the conclusion that he could be a low-profile son of a rich family. Due to this, she orders her maid to take a bottle of wine to Yang, informing him that it is from her. When she does, Yang accepts it gladly and even asks her to come in, but she declines. When Miss Su gets informed about this, she is made to believe that he is a nice guy. Meanwhile, later that night, Yang decides to go for a drive. On his way, he gets contacted by a new passenger. They happen to be a young college student and her boyfriend. The girl pleads with Yang to get her to her dorm before 10:30 p.m., which happens to be their curfew. Since Yang was from the same college, he promised to get her there on time. On the other hand, the girl's boyfriend seems interested in getting her back to her dorm on time, and even threatens Yang to make sure he meets up. Seeing how desperate she is, Yang promises to get her there on time, since he also goes to the same college and knows a shortcut. Hearing this, the girl is surprised and asks Yang for his name while she introduces herself as Ling Xiaoyu, an English major student. Yang introduces her himself too. Suddenly, the car system indicates that Yang has changed route to another direction, which is the reason for him to get Xiaoyu back to her hostel on time. Hearing this, the boyfriend angrily yells at Yang, asking why he diverted to another route. Yang explains that since they want to get the lady to her hostel on time, the shortcut can help save 5 minutes of their time. Xiaoyu is happy about this and asks Yang for his contact in case they need his service in the future. However, they got to the hostel on time. The girl alighted. Surprised, Yang asks the boyfriend if he is getting off there too or somewhere else. However, the boyfriend tells Yang he is going to reorder the car, therefore he should keep going. At that moment, Yang receives a notification that he has just been left a bad review. Thankfully, the bad review earns Yang a gift as he is rewarded with an actual combat technique at that moment, which feels like a superpower. After receiving the technique successfully, Yang asks the boy why he left him a bad review and not tell him what he did wrong before that. In response, the boy tells Yang to continue driving and that he's going to tell him when he gets to his destination. Getting there, the boy calls his friend's attention through the phone. Shortly after, a group of boys arrives with weapons in their hands, telling Yang to get out of the car. Confused, Yang asks what's happening, which the boy explains, saying he spent the whole day drinking and eating with his girlfriend, and intentionally, he made her stay late till the last 15 minutes, thinking he would go to the hotel with her. Hearing this, Yang tries explaining that it was the boy that asked him to get her to the hostel, but then the boy isn't ready for explanations and asks Yang to get out of the car. Knowing he has just been given a combat technique and would have no problem beating the boys, he gets out of the car to confront them. But before they could fight, Yang tells them to go to a place where there is no CCTV camera, so they won't leave any evidence after beating him to death. The boys agreed to this, but to their surprise, Yang is able to defeat them within a very short time, leaving them half dead. As Yang walks away, one of the beaten boys confronts the boyfriend, whom he identifies as Zhang for getting them involved with that type of person. Therefore, he's going to pay for their medical bills. Zhang, who is also beaten with some ribs probably broken, regrets his action at that moment. Then Yang tells Zhang to come to him and promises not to beat him again. Getting to him, he asks the boy to change the bad review, since this order is the first for his new car, which the boy promises to change. Having discussed this, Yang drives off, But in the car, the boy's girlfriend, Xiaoyu, asks if he delivered her boyfriend and requests to pay the fare. Instead, Yang tells her to use it to foot the medical bills as he explains what happened. Then he advised her to break up with the boy because he's not a good person. At that moment, Xiaoyu calls her boyfriend to ask why she ordered a gang to beat up her senior. But instead, he gets angry that she's flirting with Yang that she just met, without considering how he feels. Angrily, he ends the call and files a complaint about Yang, saying since he doesn't want a bad review, he would do something else. Arriving at his house, the system notifies him again about the complaint, which has earned him physical enhancement and strength. But this time, since the process would take some time, he is asked to tell the system when to start. Yang happily goes into his house to lay down, thanking the boy for the complaint. While in bed, he requests for the process to start, which takes place for 77:49 seconds. After completing the process, he is identified as the strongest man on Earth. The next day, while jogging in the neighborhood, he runs into Miss Su. They exchange pleasantries while they also thank her for the gift she sent him before continuing his jogging. While jogging, Yang thinks of a way to repay Miss Q back for the gift. Later that day, he arrives at Miss Su's residence where he meets her maid, Aunt Lan, who welcomes him at the door. He tells her he wanted to repay Miss Su for the gift, but couldn't think of any, so he decided to bring the tea he has at home for them to have a drink together. Just then, Miss Su responds from inside the house, welcoming him. Aunt Lan tells her that Yang would like to share the tea with him and offers to prepare that, which she agrees to. Handing over the bag of tea, Yang tells the woman that he would not be able to stay for the drink because he has to take his car out. Hearing this, Miss Su asks what he does for a living, which he tells her. Surprised at this, she thinks within herself if this could mean that Yang is not a rich man, but still wonders how he could afford the house he lives in. Later that day, Miss Wang orders his car for a ride, which he accepts. In the car, even before Yang starts the car, she starts to talk about him changing his car to an ordinary car. Also, she teases him for looking at her, which she thinks is because she's all dressed. Yang, who is so uncomfortable with her talking, tells her to keep quiet, because she will be more intelligent if she can stop talking. However, he tells her to put on the seatbelt for them to go. Either way, Miss Wang tells him about her dinner reservations for them, which he rejects, saying he has business to run. At that moment, she starts to flirt with him, saying he doesn't want to get her drunk and take her to a hotel, and besides, he is handsome. Then, she informs him that her father said the issue has been negotiated and the money would arrive the next morning. Therefore, she would like to thank him with dinner. Yet he rejects the dinner offer. This gets her pissed a little, as she starts to ask him if he has a sexual orientation problem, because how could he reject a girl as beautiful as her? Suddenly, Yang informs her they have gotten to her destination for her to alight, without saying any more words, which makes her angry and call him a gay. Having received another order, he goes to the passenger's location, where a girl waves at him to signal him. Meanwhile, he finds out that the girl is being threatened by a grown-up man for making bicycles hit his parked car while she was passing by. In order to settle this, Yang suggests they go to the bakery next door to look at their CCTV footage, since the cake is facing in their direction. The girl also agrees to this, but the young man instead wants Yang to stay out of it if he doesn't want his car smashed into pieces, because his car seems to be new. Hearing this, Yang asks if he's trying to extort money from the girl by not wanting to see the camera footage, which isn't fair on the little girl. Angrily, the man asks how this has to do with Yang, which he explains that he's in a hurry because the girl ordered his taxi, and if he doesn't complete the order, he won't be able to take another. The man, who is so furious, brings out a stick and threatens to smash Yang's car. Yang tells him to go ahead and he won't stop him, and while the girl tries to stop the man, Yang tells her not to. Seeing how Yang stopped the girl from stopping him, the man vows to smash the car, but as he was about to, he saw the car's logo, and he knew at that moment that he had passed his boundaries. He calms down, knowing if he has smashed the car, he would be in a huge debt for the rest of his life. Yang tells him to go ahead and smash the car, but the man accepts that probably the wind blew the bicycles and hit his car. Then the man accepts his fault and tells them to leave, which eventually makes them leave the place. In the car, the girl thanks Yang for his help and asks why the man became nice all of a sudden, which Yang tells her might be a change of conscience. Arriving at her destination, the girl introduces herself as Dao Yun and invites him for dinner with her friends there, but he declines, saying she should have fun with her friends. Then she requests for his number contact in case she needs a ride next time, which he gives her and drives off. After dropping Yun off, Yang notices that he is hungry and decides to get food at the dinner restaurant. Just then, he receives a text message from Yoon, who asks him for help as it seems like her drink was tampered with her room number sent to. Seeing this, Yang tells the waiter at the restaurant to go to room 302, which is where Yoon is, saying his classmate is in there and has not gotten out. However, before the waiter could move a few more inches, Yang sees Yoon and her roommates, Wang Lan and Zhang Yefi, together with Hangxi. Meanwhile, Yoon, who seems to have been drugged, tells them in her faint voice to leave her to go back to the hostel, which the girls agree to do as they support her to walk. Meanwhile, Henji tells that he is surprised to see Yang, to which he responds back, telling Henji that his father seems to know his way for getting him out of prison so quickly. Angry, Henji tells him not to cross his path as Yang can do nothing to him. However, he doesn't have his time and asks the girls to come along. Yang stops them and accuses the girls for getting Yoon drunk and luring her to a man's bed. Lan lashes out, telling Yang that Henji and Yoon are lovers, and she only got drunk while they are trying to get her back to the hostel. Yang, who knows she is lying, shows them the text messages he received from Yoon. This revelation surprises them, but Henji claims to be Yoon's boyfriend, and he is clear of the allegations. Knowing the truth, Yang threatens to call the police to find out if she was drugged or not. Hearing this, Henji ran away from the scene, threatening Yang and leaving the girls behind. However, the friends left her too, leaving her with Yang, who asks the waiter to open a private room for him. In the room, he sits her down on her couch and Yoon, who is half awake, asks if he saved her. Instead, he asks her what happened, and she tells him it was her roommates who invited her for dinner, and when she got there, she found Henji there too. Also, when she was about to leave, he asked her to have a glass of juice and she started to feel dizzy afterwards. Yang knows for sure that the juice was drugged. Feeling wronged, Yoon vows not to forgive them and calls the police for intervention. Getting home after working for the day, he meets Aunt Lan in front of his house, whom he asks what she wants. The lady informs him that Miss Sue would like to have tea with him if he would be available. But Yang turned down this offer even after appreciating the kind gesture, telling her that he would like to rest early after a hectic day. Then he promises them dinner at his place when he arrives early the following day, which the lady appreciates and takes her leave. Getting home, Aunt Lan relays Yang's message to Miss Sue, who wonders why he's the only one who doesn't seem to want to come to her place among her neighbors. However, she sees the dinner as an opportunity to know more about him. Meanwhile, Yang in his house gets a call from Yoon, who informs him that Lan happens to be the one that drugged her. Although Henji was the mastermind, he got away with it. Yang tells her he got away probably because of lack of evidence, but advises her to be careful next as he promises to deal with Henji himself. The next day, he gets a taxi order for 2 passengers who are male and female. However, the male passenger happens to sit in the front seat with Yang, and on entering the car, he pulls off his shoes, letting out a very smelly odor. Irritated by this, Yang asks the man to put his shoes on, but he wouldn't listen as he says he wants to rest. Yang threatens to have him get out of the car if he wouldn't listen, but instead, the man threatens to drop him a bad review. The lady also supports the man, whom she identifies as Da, by telling Yang to tolerate the odor. After all, it's part of service. This annoys Yang, who tells Da to either wear his shoes and allow them to proceed or he gets out of the car. The man still proves adamant, leaving Yang no choice but to drag him out of the car to the ground. The lady screams for help, calling Yang a murderer, which attracts a few people. The lady accuses Yang of verbal abuse and him choking her boyfriend's neck. Yang, in his defense, explains what happened, which, fortunately for him, the people condemn their behavior after perceiving the bad odor. But just at that moment, Jai notices Yang's luxurious car and exclaims. Wondering what car it is, the lady asks him, and he tells her the car is $1 million car. Now they presume Yang to be from a very wealthy family, fearing that they have gotten themselves into trouble. Realizing they are in trouble, the lady apologizes to Yang for their actions and offers to buy him a meal as an apology. Seeing the lady do this, Jai feels offended by this and asks what she is trying to do, which she tells him she's trying to make it up to Yang, whom she calls her senior brother. Then, she tells him to go without her. This annoys Zod so much that he calls her a bitch for calling Yang her senior brother. Then it gets revealed that the two are siblings, and the lady, whose name is Yu, is the eldest, as she laments on him not listening to her. However, Yang asks Yu to get her brother's shoes out of his car, which she agrees to, but instead sits in the car and tells Yang to have dinner with her. Knowing what his plan is, Yang gets into the car too, but asks her to help him clean his blurry reversing camera. Unfortunately for her, Yang zooms off, throwing her bag at her after screaming of leaving it in the car. Meanwhile, Ja, her brother who witnessed everything, mocks her for being rejected. Suddenly, she slaps him for not understanding her while she is only trying to cover his mess, which he apologizes for. Then she tells him to leave Yang a bad review and file a complaint if he wants her to be calm, and he hurriedly does so. At the car wash, Yang receives review and complaint notification, and suddenly, the bad review system appears to him to relate his reward to him. He is rewarded with a 30% equity stake in Baoking Hotel, which is in cash of $5 million, making him the second largest share of the company. Therefore, he is to go to the hotel to sign the transfer agreement, and however, the reward so much excites Yang. Just at that moment, Lixin messages him to meet her tomorrow by booking hotel, which Yang feels is an opportunity for him to sort his 2 appointments in the same location. Getting home, he finds 2 dressed chefs invading his house, who tells him they are there on Misu's order to prepare the food for their dinner later that night. Getting ready to cook the dishes, the chef finds out Yang has every kitchen utensils and ingredients in his house and urges him to go sit while they make the food. Later that night, Misu and Aunt Lan arrive at his house as he welcomes them into his abode. However, Misu, looking at the painting in the house, believes that they would be worth a fortune, which means Yang is actually a wealthy man. Finally, it is time for dinner, and the table is filled with different varieties of food, inviting her to the table. They start to chat while they eat until Misu asks what type of car he likes, and along the way he tells her he can't afford a sports car due to his capacity for the time being. Hearing this, she thinks he's on an adventure and would return him to inherit his fortune. Then, they continue their meal. After the meal, Yang and Misu go out for a walk only to see Hengji and some thugs with weapons. Hengji threatens to attack Yang, but Misu tries to interfere, but is asked not to stay out of it by Hengji. Misu, thinking this is an opportunity to build a relationship with Yang, she yells at Hengji not to interrupt their walk. Instead, Yang comes forward and accepts the challenge, telling he has always wanted to get him. Yang insults him, saying Hengji's source of survival is his father's company, and if it runs down he has nothing left. Hengji accepts what Yang said as the truth, then tells the thugs to attack him. Yang beat the entire men mercilessly, leaving out Hengji. Misu is amazed by Yang's martial arts skills, wondering where he learned it from. However, Yang goes close to Hengji, who is so scared for his life, threatens Yang not to touch him, which annoys Yang to give him a very hard punch on the face. Regardless, Hengji still threatens Yang for this, which makes Yang hit him again, until finally succumbs and begs for his life. However, Yang tells him to make sure he doesn't lay his eyes on him again, leaving him to go as 2 of the thugs help him to walk. After this, Misu commends his fighting skills and wonders who his master is. Meanwhile, Yang, who knows he has to come up with something, tells her he has not seen his master in years since he went on trip. Then, she hopes they meet again, and asks what he would do with the Yawa group, but he tells her nothing yet, but he's certain he will do something very soon. Still thinking about the fantasies about Yang, thinking he doesn't want to use his family powers to destroy the group, yet she decides to help. Then she tells Yang she would like to help him handle that, which she identifies as a gift from her as a friend. Yang thanks her for this as she promises he would listen to the news of the Yawa group's downfall. However, Yang tells her about his shareholding in Baoking Hotel and asks her to have lunch with him there the following day, and she agrees. Then they depart as it is getting late. At her home, Aunt Lan welcomes and asks her how it was with Victor Yang, which made her tell Aunt Lan about how Yang took out 12 men. Then she tells Aunt Lan to tell the workers to find out all the Yawa group wrongdoings and report to her, as she will ensure they run down. The following day at Baoking Hotel restaurant, Jiankun, Lixin's boyfriend, comes to meet her about Yang's whereabouts, but she also complains of texting him without him replying. Meanwhile, the other classmates are there too, because it seems like a reunion. However, Jiankun tells her classmates would be the ones to split the bill because he can't pay for everything. Then, 2 of their friends arrive for the reunion too and find she and Jiankun exchanging words and ask what happened. However, she explains what happened, which makes them angry too, saying they invited them over to split the bill and they shouldn't have said they would organize a treat if they did not have the money. These words get to Lixin as he lashes out at Jiankun for turning everyone against her. While this goes on, another classmate of Lixin, Xao, enters, telling Jiankun he's not their classmate and should be at their reunion and tell him they can split the bills if he can't afford it. But Jiankun shows that he has the money but can't pay for their bill because they are not his classmates either. Hearing this, Lixin starts to cry and breaks up with Jiankun, telling to leave the place, which he did, telling her not to regret it later. Then they all return back to the room where the treats are to dig in. Xao then assures them it won't be an issue splitting the bills, but they lament not being able to afford the hotel's expensive food. However, he volunteers to lend them the money while they pay him later, which makes everyone happy. Just at that moment, Yang enters the room and apologizes for coming late. They welcome him and tell him about the situation and are asked to sit beside the class monitor. Then, Lixin confronts him for not replying to her messages, but he didn't seem to care about it as long as the class listened to the recording he sent. Then, Ta tells Yang he is handling the food so he should pay for the drink, and then goes ahead to ask the water for bottles of wine. One of them, Yuan, tells Tao if Yang can afford the wines because they cost thousands per bottle. Hearing this, Tao asks why the waiter is serving them the wines, which she says happen to be the foods and wine Lixin and her boyfriend ordered from them earlier. Lixin tells her they broke up, but the waiter doesn't care until Yang volunteers to sort the drinks. The class monitor seems to be considerate with Yang and offers to return the wine, but the waiter declines, saying they can't return a wine if it leaves the counter. She suggests they talk to the manager, and just 2 minutes later, the manager, Mr. Chu Cheo, arrives angrily. suddenly calms down on seeing Yang, whom he referred to as the hotel's new shareholder, and asked if he liked the cooking skills of the chefs. Hearing this leaves all the guests present in surprise. If you made it this far, let's confuse the fake fans amongst us and comment, "I hate Yang." Kindly subscribe and blow this video up with your likes. Until next time, do take care and stay safe.